Like, on God, it's just the most bullshit thing. And I literally had to pay them a lot of fucking money for no reason.
Jake Paul himself might be cashing out because the big purses that he's pulling, you know, fighting these has-beens or ex-fighters, you know,
he's you know, it's defamatory against the business. He's basically told us
because he's gonna want to see him get hurt. I mean, these guys are going for the money, where really, you know, he has a life after.
Anthony Joshua has hit Jake Paul with a massive $500 million lawsuit after Paul pulled out of their fight. The sheer scale of this move has Jake Paul visibly shaken and distraught. All the money he has ever earned in his career could vanish in an instant, and he now faces the reality of Anthony Joshua's relentless pursuit in court.
It's not on me, innit? I was ready to fight. So yeah, he fucked up.
Jake Paul admits he is not ready for a world champion like Anthony Joshua. His uncertainty is clear as he repeatedly says he doesn't know. After being sued for $500 million for pulling out, the pressure is crushing him. The reality of facing Joshua while losing so much money is...
I don't know, I haven't thought about that possibility. I mean, could you envision that someday? I don't know, I think...
Eddie Hearn points out just how ludicrous Jake Paul's pullout was. The financial damage is massive, with Netflix and MVP investing heavily. Anthony Joshua has forced Jake Paul into a corner where excuses cannot save him. Every failed negotiation, every hesitated move highlights that Joshua holds all the power and Jake Paul is nowhere near prepared for a world-class challenge. The fight's cancellation only magnifies Jake Paul's instability and exposes him under the spotlight.
with all the money that's been spent and for squeaky bum time is not the way forward. And I think Jake Paul's game.
Jake Paul's bizarre comments show just how overwhelmed he is by Anthony Joshua's presence. He is fixated on Joshua's size, revealing fear or rather than confidence. The mental gap between Joshua and Jake Paul is stark. This distraction and awkwardness under pressure only confirm that Jake Paul is unprepared to face someone of Joshua's elite caliber. Anthony Joshua's aura alone is enough to destabilize a fighter lacking true championship experience.
Face off right here. Just looking up at Daddy there and just seeing, how big he is, and just my eyes were kind of going into his nipples and stuff, which I kind of liked. And then basically I was just like, whoa, he's big in that. And then,
Johnny Nelson expresses surprise at Jake Paul's meltdown. There must be a deeper reason behind his chaotic behavior. Pulling out of a fight against Anthony Joshua and facing a $500 million lawsuit suggests immense pressure. Jake Paul's decisions are reactive and poorly planned. Anthony Joshua's dominance and reputation are clearly affecting Jake Paul mentally, showing that Joshua controls not just the ring, but the entire narrative.
For him to think of and plan doing something like that.
Yeah, because we see things happen.
Anthony Joshua calls out Jake Paul's toxicity and lack of respect. He emphasizes that it is not just about skill but attitude. Jake Paul would likely complain about any top heavyweight because he is unprepared for true competition. Joshua's words show he sees through the facade and knows a humbling is overdue. Facing Anthony Joshua is more than a fight. It is a lesson in respect and reality, something Jake Paul is painfully learning.
I'm surprised that Jake took the fight rather than Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua is fought the best fighters in the world. He's a solidified champion. But I'm surprised that Jake took the fight and is fighting a guy that's so dangerous like Anthony Joshua. So I got to take my hat off to him. Because we were saying that he's fighting this person past their prime, this person's old and this and whatnot. And
Duke McKenzie makes it clear that Anthony Joshua will treat this fight with full seriousness. Jake Paul, a wannabe fighter, is completely outmatched against a trained athlete of Joshua's caliber. The disparity in skill, power, and mental readiness is glaring. Every fan watching can sense that Joshua will not underestimate this fight. While Jake Paul struggles just to comprehend the challenge ahead, this is not just a mismatch in size and power, but a complete mental and tactical imbalance, exposing Jake Paul's vulnerability.
Would take Jake Paul lightly any way, shape or form, and it'd be so easy to hit. You're talking about a trained athlete.
Chael Sonnen points out that Jake Paul is still an unknown quantity in true boxing terms. His credibility was never established, and questionable decisions, like Feldman's, only delay the inevitable reckoning. Anthony Joshua's presence highlights the stark contrast in legitimacy and preparation. Jake Paul's reputation is fragile, built on hype rather than skill, and facing Joshua exposes that. The fighter who has trained, fought, and proven himself across decades stands ready to capitalize on every weakness Paul has. And this gap in experience is painfully obvious to everyone watching.
Is when Feldman turned in a ridiculous decision, which is where Paul...
Derek Chisora is brutally honest about Jake Paul's chances against Anthony Joshua. There is no power in Paul capable of seriously threatening Joshua. The reality is that Joshua's skill and punching strength are far beyond Paul's capacity. The fight is not just challenging for Paul, it is dangerous. Fans and experts alike can see this ending the moment the first serious punches land. Joshua's dominance in power, technique, and experience paints a clear picture that Jake Paul is walking straight into a disaster.
In court cases, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do, and you got to protect your business.
Eddie Hearn highlights the chaos Jake Paul creates, emphasizing that Anthony Joshua is not someone to toy with. The implications of even minor provocations in this fight are massive. Joshua has proven he can dismantle opponents who underestimate him. Jake Paul's brash behavior cannot shield him from the reality of facing a trained heavyweight champion. Hearn's words underline that Joshua approaches this situation with strategy and precision, while Paul is left exposed by his own recklessness and inability to grasp the seriousness of a world-class challenge.
I thought it was a bitch move. I really did.
Have you spoken?
I would never. If you chin someone at a presser, if you do that, it's different.
Tom Little cautiously points out the uncertainty surrounding Jake Paul's abilities, but the underlying message is clear. When facing Anthony Joshua, words are meaningless without results. Paul has never been tested at this level, and Joshua's reputation for relentless pressure and precision strikes is formidable. There is a very real possibility that Paul will not cope with Joshua's intensity. Every observer can sense the looming collapse if Paul cannot rise to the occasion, highlighting that Joshua's dominance is not just physical, but mental, leaving Jake Paul teetering on the edge of defeat.
I'm not saying he's rubbish, I'm not saying he's useless, but we will see how good he is. And if I'm right in what I'm saying,
Jake Paul admits his fear and labels Anthony Joshua an animal, which in itself speaks volumes about the gap in skill and intensity. Joshua's power, experience, and strategic mind are all on display even before a punch is thrown. Paul is entering the ring with genuine apprehension, a rare admission from a fighter who thrives on hype. This fear shows he knows Joshua is on another level physically and mentally. Fans watching can sense the imbalance as Joshua's presence alone dominates the psychological landscape, leaving Paul already on the back foot before the fight officially begins.
This guy is a fucking animal.
Abel Sanchez highlights that this fight is low risk and high reward for Anthony Joshua. Jake Paul has faced no real challenges, and previous results show his inability to compete with legitimate fighters. Joshua, on the other hand, has nothing to prove but everything to gain. And the disparity in skill is evident. This fight looks like a farce for Paul. While a strategic opportunity for Joshua, fans can see that Joshua's experience, strength, and tactical knowledge completely overshadow Paul's hype, making it a one-sided battle in every aspect, including mental readiness and fight IQ.
This kind of fight for AJ, very little risk, extremely little risk, and a big reward. I mean, why would you not take it? But as a fight fan, I thought it was a farce. I mean, Tommy Fury beat Jake Paul. It may not be, it may be a little while back, but still, he hasn't improved that much, and he hasn't been fighting anybody that's posed a problem.
Eddie Hearn exposes Jake Paul's stubbornness and ignorance of the boxing business. Facing Anthony Joshua is a test far beyond what Paul has encountered, and he clearly underestimates the stakes. Joshua's team does not tolerate amateurs entering their domain unprepared. The fight will expose every flaw in Paul's preparation and mindset. Fans can already sense that Joshua's professionalism, focus, and discipline will dominate this bout, turning it into a masterclass of experience versus hype. Paul's bravado cannot mask the fact that Joshua operates on a completely different level in both skill and mental fortitude.
What do you think about this move to Alexander Usyk's coach? For what? AJ apparently...
Johnny Nelson stresses the chaos surrounding Jake Paul and the fallout from his actions. Anthony Joshua's legal move has exposed Paul's recklessness and lack of understanding of the business. There is a serious need to assess what happened, and fans can see that Joshua is operating with precision both inside and outside the ring. Paul's missteps only underline his amateur status, while Joshua continues to solidify his dominance. This is not just a fight. It is a statement showing that experience, discipline, and professionalism always trump hype. And Jake Paul is paying the price for underestimating that reality.
Unfortunately, there is going to be there needs to be an inquiry straight after this. Why? What? But that's what I'm hearing. This news is as fresh to me as it is you. I'm quite sure when this goes out, it'll be all over the.
Jake Paul admits fear and acknowledges Anthony Joshua's knockout power and legendary victories. Joshua's record against elite fighters like Klitschko, Usyk, and Ruiz speaks for itself. Paul is confronting a heavyweight with devastating experience and precision in the ring. This admission of being scared shows the psychological edge Joshua already holds. Fans can sense the gap in legitimacy and power as Paul is facing someone who can end fights instantly. Joshua's presence alone intimidates, highlighting the enormous challenge for Paul and reinforcing that hype alone cannot match true boxing excellence. Literally ended in seconds.